Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time I'm gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 18th day of November. How's things going out there? Hope you're all doing fairly well today, or as well as possible in what's clearly, you start, there's that feel in the air here now with, you can feel we're about 6 weeks away from Christmas. Hell, you're less than 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. And you're at that point in the year where you don't mind how bad the weather is outside. You're at that point of the year where it's like, it's cold out, but no big deal. We got the holiday season right in front of us. When you get to January and the regular season in football is over, you're still 2 months away from pitchers and catchers reporting for baseball, 3 months away from the baseball season getting started. That's when it starts to annoy you. But for now, we're in a calm place. We're in a pleasant place, at least a much more calm place than some people out there, such as the likes of Colin Kaepernick, Myles Garrett, and unfortunately Tua Tagovailoa. And those are the three areas I wanted to start with this week, because could have very easily came on here, started with talking about the New York Jets, but I feel like I talk about that each and every single week. So we'll save my personal fandom for later in the podcast. We'll start with what I consider the three biggest topics in the football world right now, pro and college, and do this in order. With the whole situation that went down on Thursday night to end Thursday Night Football, ending a very ugly game, a game that, quite frankly, have you heard anyone break down the game? Have you heard anyone out there give credit where credit's due for the Cleveland Browns winning a game in prime time and finally somewhat looking the part the last couple weeks, getting themselves back in playoff contention? No. The only thing we've all talked about is Myles Garrett's actions at the end of that game. And listen, he's not the only one at fault here. Mason Rudolph, his actions, he should have gotten more than just a fine. He should be suspended a game, because you look at it, he had his hand in the face mask of Garrett. That probably is what set Garrett off. He did have his hand on the helmet, but I've watched the replay of this several times, and there's never a point where I felt like Mason Rudolph was trying to take off Myles Garrett's helmet. There's never a point where I'm saying that, his actions are the worst of the actions here. He had his right hand stuck in the face mask as he was being taken down and took his left hand and kind of palmed it on the helmet. If he was really trying to take off Myles Garrett's helmet, I think he would have been like reaching underneath around the chin or had reached onto the face mask with that hand as well. So yeah, that's probably what instigated the whole spot, his right hand in Garrett's face mask. But Myles Garrett's actions were the worst of them all. Anybody out there, such as Cleveland Brown fans or I saw Max Kellerman on ESPN try to defend Garrett, act like what he did was not a big deal. You're out of your damn mind. Because it's one thing, you get it into a fight. You're fighting the offensive linemen of the Steelers, both DeCastro and Pouncey. But look at the spot there. The Browns had the game won. I still don't understand why Garrett felt the need to still try and take out Mason Rudolph. When Rudolph had already thrown the football, he decides to tackle him, feeling that he needs to put the exclamation point on this game. And in the process, that's what set up this whole thing. And when you see your quarterback taken to the ground like that, if, in the case of Pouncey and in the case of DeCastro, you're going to try and defend your guy. No matter how bad Rudolph was on Thursday night, you're going to try and defend him. You're going to try and help him out in any possible way. But, Pouncey's actions were not good when he's kicking at the guy. He's throwing punches at him while he's on the ground. But Garrett's actions were swinging the helmet at a guy that doesn't have a helmet. I mean, really? And think about it. The way he grabbed the helmet and was swinging at it, he's lucky that he hit Mason Rudolph in the top of the head with the inside parted pad of the helmet. Because if he's got to turn the other way and hits him with the crown of it, we're having a different story today. We're talking Mason Rudolph maybe getting knocked out, laying on the ground, covered in blood. This is a guy that has already had a concussion this year. So at least we're not talking about Rudolph getting hurt any more than he was. And I credit the NFL in reacting quickly with this. Reacting in a way, they didn't kick their feet through the mud like we've seen them do with instances in the past where they decided, let's wait till Monday and issue punishments, not do it on a slow news cycle day like Friday. No, because then this would have hung over all weekend. Of course, during these games, you're going to have every one of these commentators, whether it be Chris Collinsworth, Troy Aikman in whatever game he did yesterday, Rondé Barber, in the case of the Monday Night Football game, Booger McFarland, they'll all be giving their thoughts and opinions on this in these games. But you wouldn't have had it hanging over Sunday wondering, what is Goodell going to do? What is the league going to do? What kind of suspension is going to be handed out on everybody? And outside of Rudolph not getting a game, I think these suspensions are pretty fair. Larry Ogunjobi for the late hit on Rudolph, hitting him from behind, that deserved 1 game. Pouncey, at first, I looked at it and said 3 games, but then, what? He did kick the guy. You got to send some kind of statement there. But Garrett deserved the worst of the punishment. He got that. He's indefinitely suspended, which means the Players Association can't pull any kind of appeal nonsense. And the thing about that is, I don't think these Players Associations ever realize this. When you appeal actions like this, and we haven't seen actions like this ever before, but when you appeal a situation like this where someone just loses it and puts the safety of another player in danger like that, when you're appealing on Myles Garrett's behalf, you're also in a way opposing Mason Rudolph. You're like, all right, yeah, we want to defend Myles Garrett, but we're going to throw out the window the fact that he could have given Mason Rudolph a concussion. Not excusing Rudolph. I'll continue to say that. But an indefinite suspension was the way to go. Glad the league went there on this. And I would have no problem if when Goodell and Garrett meet up this offseason, if he decides, you know what, you're out for the first 4 games next season. Send a statement so that nothing like this ever happens again. Set a precedent right now, because this is unlike anything we've ever seen before. No, that story almost covered up what was a big story for this weekend, and that was, I think the bad that the NFL did this week when they set up this private workout for Colin Kaepernick on Saturday in Atlanta. They invited all 32 teams to attend and give Kaepernick the opportunity, the shot that he's been looking for to get back into the league. My problem with this is on the league side of things here. They only gave him 5 days notice on this. And they scheduled it on a Saturday. What team in their right mind would be sending their top scouts and top player personnel people out to watch a private workout on a Saturday, the day before the game? You'd have a better chance at all of these teams, going and seeing them if you scheduled it on, say, a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I didn't understand why that was such a big deal with the league when Kaepernick and his representation requested it to be pushed to this coming Tuesday. The league said, nope, got to be on Saturday. It really made no sense to me whatsoever. And then they're pushing for him to sign a waiver so that they're not responsible in case he gets injured at all in this. So it's, all right, we're setting up a private workout for you all on our terms for you to get back in the league. And you got to sign a waiver on top of that just in case you get hurt. That part made no sense to me. But Kaepernick, let's face it, he didn't handle himself well. He didn't come off as, an angel in any of this. He didn't, distinguish himself very well when you consider an hour before this workout was set to take place on the Atlanta Falcons practice facility, him and his agent decided to throw a curveball and say, you know what, no, I want to work out with the wide receivers I'm bringing in. I want my own camera crew. I want everything under my terms. So instead, we're going to do this at a high school football field 60 miles away from your location. And that kind of cut in half the amount of teams that went there, cut in half the amount of teams that decided to attend this event. And the event, it didn't showcase anything that we didn't already know. He has arm strength, but still, from those who were there will tell you the accuracy wasn't as great. And my problem with him was not only did, he has the workout, he's doing with his own wide receivers, doing it on what he claims is his own terms. But then the diatribe he went on after the game when talking to the media, he thanks everyone who was there, but goes and takes a shot at the league saying, we've been ready for 2 years. Me and my agent are waiting. We're waiting to hear from the league that has kept us out for this time. It feels like, he's more concerned with getting back in the league to have a platform to promote his, what he's fighting against. And what his fight has always been against is, police brutality. And that's why, this started back in August of 2017, if memory serves me correct. Yeah, August of 2016, excuse me, that preseason game when he was first sitting on the bench during the national anthem and then was taking a knee throughout the season. And my problem with Kaepernick has always been, A, he's been trying to use the NFL as a platform to serve his purpose, and B, the kneeling and the sitting during the national anthem, because when you're sitting during that, that's not taking a shot at the police force. That's in a way taking a shot at the men and women who have fought for this country. That's what that flag to me represents. Those who have fought for our country and fought for us to have our freedoms, have our beliefs, our way of life. Not the police who, as we know, it's not all of them. It's a 5%, and I don't want to get into a whole political debate on this, whole debate on brutality. I'm just trying to explain how I've been against how he's trying to represent himself in all of this. He could have handled it in different ways. Instead of kneeling during the national anthem and using pre-games of all of these NFL games as his platform to serve a purpose, he could have, gone to protest rallies or held protest rallies after the game, told his ownership that, hey, this is something that I'm doing. I hope that you can be supportive of me doing this. And maybe they would have even joined him at that, knowing that, hey, you're not doing it while, 1-4 or 4-7 while you're at the game. I got no problem with you doing it after the game. Maybe I'll even show up there in support of you, support of this cause that you believe in so strongly. Because, if you handled it that way, it'd be a totally different story. But to go about it with the kneeling, and I don't think he's learned his lesson, because these teams, they don't want this kind of distraction, this kind of the focus on anything but football on or part of their teams, because every time something comes up, if there's another case of police brutality or something said or done by our president, which we know he's had a back and forth with the players over the years over, the media is going to rush to Kaepernick and say, oh, what do you think about this? What's your stance on all of this? Where do you sit with this? And they don't want that in their locker room. They don't want that being the story each and every single week. So on that front, well, yes, he's better than some of these scrub backup quarterbacks in the league. I can understand why they've not wanted him part of the league these last 3 years, and he's failing to realize that they're providing him a privilege, not a right, to be part of an NFL roster. Now, the third thing I wanted to get to very quickly before I take my first break, and this, as a fan of the NFL, as a fan of college football, this hurt me on Saturday when I saw the injury to Tua Tagovailoa. This really, stung. This really just, I don't want to say I was pissed at anyone in particular. I was just pissed off and saddened for this kid, the injury that he suffered in the second quarter of that game, in which he was on the run, running to his left, gets hit by two defenders as he's releasing the football, and didn't get up after that. First, when I heard he got carted off the field, I'm watching the replay of this, and I see, his face was bloody. I'm thinking, all right, well, that's the only reason he got carted off the field. But then to see the fact he was putting no pressure on his right leg, and to later hear that he had a dislocation of his right hip, along with fracture to the posterior wall, which just sounds unpleasant. Those words together, it had me feeling bad for the kid, because I'm not going to sit here and blame Nick Saban or blame any of the players on Ole Miss who tackled him, because they were just trying to play a game of football. Saban thought he was healthy to play. He wanted to still be in the game at that point when it was 35-7 to work on the 2-minute drill before halftime, and then he was going to leave the game. So I don't look at this as anyone in particular's fault. I don't think the medical staff would have sent him out there unless they were sure he was healthy enough to play. It's just an overall sad situation for a guy that has been one of the best quarterbacks in college football the last 2 years, and B, was about to potentially set himself up for life. He still had a chance, even with the loss to LSU and the fact he's battling this right ankle sprain and has had 2 surgeries on one on each of his ankles in the last 12 months. Still had a good opportunity at being top 2 or 3 pick in this year's upcoming NFL draft. Now with this injury news, it puts his future in jeopardy. It's been brought up a couple times the last couple days how this is eerily similar to the injury that ended Bo Jackson's career. You hope that it's not to that extent and that he still has a playing career in front of him. But now it affects whether he gets drafted as high, whether he comes out of school or decides to go back to Alabama next year and have a make-right kind of year, get healthy, and see if he can beat out Trevor Lawrence for being the top quarterback available in the 2021 draft. But if this injury is at all threatening to his NFL future, his NFL career, it also brings into light once again how the players aren't paid in college football. And I know this is a touchy subject, and I've never been for the college players, especially the ones on scholarship with a full ride to school that get extra meals, extra benefits, unlike the regular students. I've never been for them getting a salary because it opens Pandora's box with the Title IX rules and the fact that, if you start paying the quarterback, the running back, then you got to do the same for the college basketball players, the softball players. Every one of your athletes there under scholarship has to get paid the same thing. But they should be paid for their likeness. The school's making money off of it. These merchandise companies are making money off of it. The athlete is the only one not making money off their likeness for t-shirts, jerseys, when they've been in video games, any of that stuff, posters, their autograph. They're the only one not getting a piece of the pie in that. And now any potential future earnings of Tua have been greatly affected by this injury, and he may never be able to truly cash into his full worth. So, this injury, you don't want to blame anyone, no one at fault, but it just brings in perspective how quickly it can all either end or go downhill for any of these athletes before they get the true riches of their careers. All right, I got a lot left to get to over the next 40 minutes or so here. Recap the rest of Week 11. Give some thoughts on the Jets' win yesterday against the Redskins. Some baseball with the baseball awards and the Houston Astros. I've been waiting to talk about them all week. So a lot left to get to over the next 40, 45 minutes or so here. Glad you could all join me this week. If you're watching live on either Facebook or Twitter, feel free at any point to call in at 856-330-4749. At this time, just sit back, relax, put your feet up if you feel like it, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you're all enjoying a Monday afternoon. Last week began a very interesting week in Major League Baseball. First, the part we knew about that was going to go down is all of the awards that were handed out regular season-wise. Waiting to see what the Baseball Writers of America were going to do as far as decisions come with, Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year, Cy Young, and MVP. And the awards, some of them, in some cases, you had a pretty good idea. You knew what was coming here. With the American League Rookie of the Year and the NL Rookie of the Year, those seemed like givens with Yordan Alvarez, even though he didn't play a full season, came up, had 70 RBIs, close to 30 home runs, was just a beast for the Astros going down the stretch. And then how could you go wrong with the selection of Pete Alonso as the NL Rookie of the Year? I had no problem with the one writer that voted for Mike Soroka of the Atlanta Braves as Rookie of the Year, and I could understand his point, the fact that Soroka was a starting pitcher doing it for a team that went to the playoffs, but you also can't hold against Pete Alonso the fact that he hit 53 home runs, did it on a team that was up and down all year, had one hot stretch in the middle of August that got them back in playoff contention, but ultimately because of their bullpen and some poor performances by their starting rotation and some places where they didn't get much offensive contributions, such as second base, third base, and inconsistencies with the outfield. You could understand, the Mets not making it to the postseason, but you couldn't hold that against Alonso. He just had a phenomenal year, and I'm not going to get all crazy. Oh, he wasn't unanimous, because it's like grasping at straws. It's not the worst thing in the world if one person thought that Soroka should have been the Rookie of the Year, because he had a fantastic year in his own right. The Managers of the Year, this is where you start to have a little bit of a bone contention. No problem with Mike Schilt of the Cardinals winning it. The Cardinals, a different Cardinals team than we've seen in previous years, relying a lot more on younger starting pitching. Matt Carpenter was essentially a part-time player for this team, and they had a lot of guys step up along the year when they had injury concerns. My problem is with the American League Rookie of the Year. Manager of the Year, excuse me. And this once again shows that there is a New York bias when it comes to these votes, when it comes to these awards, because how the hell do you give it to Rocco Baldelli of the Minnesota Twins over Aaron Boone? And if you wanted to give it to Kevin Cash of the Rays, I could almost understand that, because the Rays you could probably give them the executive of the year and manager of the year every year, because it seems like they always overachieve what we predict them to do in the beginning of the season. They get usually a prediction by all these outlets of somewhere in the mid 70s, and they go and win in the high 80s, upper 90s, and do it with a low payroll and young starting pitching and the nonsense of the opener. So I could have understood if you gave it to Cash. But how you give it to Rocco Baldelli over Aaron Boone, when Aaron Boone, his team had close to 30 players spend time this year on the injured list. Hell, there were only a handful of guys on the Yankees that didn't spend time at one point on the injured list. DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Brett Gardner, pretty much the only position players that never spent some time there. We're without your ace, Luis Severino, until September. Dylan Betances, arguably one of your best two relievers, only got you 2 outs this year. And you're doing it in a division where you had the Rays, who made the wild card. The Boston Red Sox were the defending World Series champions until they fell apart in the second half. The Blue Jays got better as the season went along with all the young players they started to bring up from the minor leagues. Meanwhile, the Twins win 100 games in a division that had 2 teams lose 100-plus games. They seemingly had a cakewalk in that AL Central, aided by the fact that the Indians had so many injuries in their rotation this year, without Kluber, with Jose Ramirez getting off to a slow start, with the unfortunate illness to Carlos Carrasco. So they almost had a free path right into the postseason, had an easy run there through the American League Central. And what makes it even worse is when you hear the final totaling of the voting, and you see that, Baldelli and Boone had the same amount of first place votes, but then you look at some of the writers, and there were 2 writers who did not put Aaron Boone on their ballot. You get 5 guys, 1 through 5, that you can vote on. 2 writers did not have Aaron Boone on their ballot, and those 2 writers were from Tampa. That's kind of BS if you ask me. The MVP voting, Cody Bellinger, no problem with that. I'm surprised that Yelich still finished ahead of Rendon. Rendon would have been my choice just because Bellinger, I think the Dodgers still would have made the playoffs. Not necessarily won 100 games, but still made the playoffs without him. In the case of the Nationals, they would have been dead men walking without Rendon. It was a huge part of their eruption, going from 19-31 in May all the way to making the playoffs as the number 1 wild card and then winning in the World Series. I know the postseason doesn't count into the voting, but that's just the route I would have gone when it comes to this process. And the American League side of things, I get Mike Trout is the best player, but I'll still argue this till the cows come home. How can he have the highest WAR, and that we know they decided this based on his WAR, if his team A, would have went 72-90 with or without him, and B, he missed the final 22 games of the season? He's the best player, but that doesn't make him the most valuable. I would have given it to Alex Bregman over him. Hell, DJ LeMahieu, I thought, had a better case for being MVP over Mike Trout. That's why there needs to be some kind of divide in this. You can have the MVP, but if you want to give Trout an award every year, there needs to be an award of most outstanding. So you can give an award to who was the best player that year. So if there's a player that has just an awesome year, but his team wasn't a contender, you don't hold fault against him and could still celebrate his season in some kind of way. The Cy Young Awards, the National League seemed pretty easy to me. DeGrom winning his second in a row, and now he joins an interesting rank here. He's the second Met pitcher to win 2 Cy Young Awards, joining Tom Seaver, who's got 3. And with the last couple of years he's put himself on a Hall of Fame pace. We'll see if he can go for the three-peat next year and join the likes of Randy Johnson, and I believe Greg Maddux has also done that, going for a three-peat when it comes to the National League Cy Young Award. Now, that you couldn't have gone wrong as well with the American League. We knew it was going to be a Houston Astro, whether it be Justin Verlander or Garrett Cole. No, Justin Verlander wound up edging him out, and I'm surprised we haven't heard anything from Mr. Verlander in the last couple days, because every time there's seemingly some kind of scandal in the league, he likes to open his big mouth and talk about that, throws 2 cents in there, whether it be the baseball or the Red Sox using the Apple Watches or anybody that fails a PED test, and yes, that still happens today. Verlander, anything you want to comment right now about? Anything, you have some kind of thought on? Because right now, your franchise is the most disliked and disgraced team in all of baseball with the news that came out this week. I'm sure most of you saw this unless you were under a rock somewhere, but the media outlet known as The Athletic released a pretty interesting story last Tuesday, thanks to Ken Rosenthal and Evan Drellich, revealing that the Houston Astros, during their title run in 2017, were going on an extensive sign-stealing operation using technological aid with cameras set up in the ballpark to aid them in stealing the other team's signs. And one of the main names dropped in this, as far as giving details, is former Astros pitcher Mike Fiers. You also have quotes by Danny Farquhar, who was a Chicago White Sox relief pitcher at the time, and he gives his thoughts, his details on this, his firsthand experience in a game he was pitching in 2017, where he began to hear a banging noise in the dugout every time he threw a changeup. And let me throw out some credit here. I'm sure most of you have heard this name by now on Twitter, John Boy, who has provided us with some of the best moments in baseball over the last couple of years through his Twitter account, such as providing the world with the audio to the Aaron Boone, calling his team bleeping savages and stuff like that. He provides us with many different videos since the 2017 season in which you can clearly hear a distinct banging sound coming from the Houston Astros dugout every time the pitcher throws anything other than a fastball, anytime they're prepared to throw anything other than a fastball. And the story over the last couple of days has just gotten more juicier. You hear that both the Red Sox manager Alex Cora, who was the Astros bench coach in 2017, and Carlos Beltran, the new manager of the Mets, who was still an active player for the Astros that year, both were amongst the top individuals in setting up this scheme, in setting up this way of stealing the opposition signs with the cameras around the ballpark. And it seems like each day more comes out about this story, whether it be Beltran and Cora's involvement of it, or over the weekend when you see Astros emails released of an Astros executive named Kevin Goldstein suggesting to their scouts that they use cameras to steal the signs of the oppositions. In the emails he sends he writes in quote, "What we are looking for is how much we can see, how we would log things, if we need cameras or binoculars. So go to the game, see what you can or can't do, and report your findings." End quote. And if the Astros, this is pretty damning stuff right here. And this is something we've long speculated, fans around the baseball world, not just if you're a direct rival of theirs or someone that's faced them in the postseason, such as Yankees, Red Sox, or Indians the last couple of years. There's always been this rumor about these cameras around the ballpark and them stealing signs as the game's going on. And listen, sign stealing is gamesmanship. If you can do it from your own personal dugout, you see the pitcher tipping in some kind of way, or if you're a base runner at second and you're able to catch something and feed it to the batter at the plate. But when you're using some kind of technological weapon, some cameras to get a live feed of this, and your dugout is not getting this on some kind of 8-second delay, which any monitors that they have there are supposed to be on, that's cheating. That's unethical. That's against the good of the game, if you ask me. And I'm glad baseball is doing a thorough investigation on this. Checking what they can find with the Astros. Although all of this, I don't think these outlets such as The Athletic or ESPN would publish this if there wasn't some truth to this, if they didn't have as many sources as possible. And I'm not going to get on Mike Fiers and call him a snitch, because what do you expect him to do? You really think that, now he's no longer on the Astros, he's not going to release this information, not going to tell this to teammates saying, hey, watch out for this. They got cameras around the ballpark here in Minute Maid trying to steal your signs. He isn't going to let his former team continue to have that kind of advantage over his team. I just wonder why he didn't come out with this sooner about this, why it's only coming out 2 years after the fact, or have they still been doing this all along? And so that's why I'm glad baseball is doing an investigation to see if A, we're doing this, B, if this goes beyond 2017, and C, make sure that other teams in the league aren't doing this as well. Now, if after their investigation they come out and find that this was as bad as it looks on paper, they got to punish the Astros. They need to come down hard. It can't just be fines against the organization. You have to suspend A.J. Hinch, because there's no way he could deny it all he wants, but there's no way something like this would go on without him knowing about it. You got to just fine Alex Cora and Carlos Beltran. I think that would be unfair to the Red Sox and Mets, who right now have nothing to do with this. Their teams haven't been associated with any kind of sign stealing in this cheating way with cameras around the park. You can't punish them for something that their managers did when they were part of the Astros. So I think a heavy fine for each of them would be sufficient. Got to suspend the general manager, Jeff Luhnow, and take away draft picks. And I don't think they'll put an actual asterisk on the 2017 World Series or do something like what we've seen the NCAA do over the years. But we'll all never look at this championship the same again. We'll all in our minds view this the same way people look at, Pete Rose's managing career, the Black Sox scandal back in the early 1900s, and the steroid era. Now the pressure is on Rob Manfred. See if he can handle this scandal better than his predecessor handled the steroid era. Going to take another break here, come back on the other side, recap, go through the rest of Week 11 in the NFL. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back. Keeping sports with M3. If I can get my headset on there proper. There we go. Once again, I'm glad the NFL, came down on Myles Garrett and whatever Steelers, other Cleveland Browns needed to be punished or suspended on Friday, so that this story did not hang over the remainder of the Week 11 here for this season, because you had a lot of things we were looking forward to this weekend. Now, the biggest thing that I think, even if you're not a fan of either of these teams, we were looking toward was the matchup between the Ravens and the Texans, which turned out to be a total dud as Baltimore continued their winning streak by beating the crap out of the Texans 41-7. Another awesome performance by Lamar Jackson, throwing for 4 touchdowns, continuing to show his quickness and elusivity down the field. Meanwhile, their defense just beat the living hell out of Deshaun Watson. And not that this decided the game, but there was a non-pass interference call earlier in the game that could have changed the field, changed the momentum of this entire game. It was on the second drive by the Texans. They have a 4th and 2, decide to go for it because they're on the Ravens 2-yard line. Deshaun throws a pass to the right side to DeAndre Hopkins, and he's just mauled by Marlon Humphrey as they're entering the end zone. Still not sure whether without it Hopkins would have caught the pass, but you're looking at this. They challenged it and it wasn't overturned. I'm like, how is that not pass interference? That by the rule is pass interference. By the word is pass interference, and they continue to treat the pass interference challenge as a joke. It would have given the Texans 1st and goal on the Ravens 1-yard line. Instead, they blow a 4th down opportunity and never really got anything going offensively. Give a lot of credit to the Ravens defense, but that to me is just something that stuck out from that game, and thinking about how this could have been different, a little more back and forth competitive game if that was properly called. The Falcons have started to play football a little bit over the last 2 weeks. 2nd win in a row, winning 29-3 against the Panthers. Helps when Kyle Allen's throwing 4 interceptions, 3 in the first half, and 2 of which in the red zone, which could have given the Panthers good scoring opportunity, especially right before the first half. But now after the Ricardo Allen interception, 17 seconds before halftime, it was pretty much all she wrote. Cowboys bounce back with a win against the Lions. Prescott was incredible yesterday, throwing for over 440 yards. They were able to overcome Zeke's early fumble. Zeke did have a touchdown later on, but they defeat the Matthew Staffordless Detroit Lions, who, hearing the reports about Stafford, he could be out up to 6 weeks with the back injury. That's pretty much all she wrote for the Lions, and what's been a weird year for them because they're 3-6-1, but in reality, they've been in almost every game, including this game when they had Jeff Driscoll at quarterback. They came within one score of tying the game or potentially winning the game. They should be something more like 7-3 right now, but continues to show that some teams just have the worst luck in the world. And but pretty much yesterday to me was pretty much all she wrote for their season. I know they're going to be on national television one more time next week with the Thanksgiving Day game, but other than that, they're going to be an afterthought going into the month of December. Nick Foles returned yesterday, but that didn't matter much as the Jaguars got blown out by the Colts. The Colts, they made this more about dominating at the line of scrimmage and dominating with their ground game, having two backs run for over 100 yards. Now, the bad thing for them yesterday was losing Marlon Mack to a fractured right hand. He's going to miss a couple of weeks now. Won't be available for them for Thursday Night Football this coming week against the Texans. But the Colts, after losing 2 in a row here, get back on a roll here. And it almost feels like, with this AFC South, with the Colts and the Texans, because that's who it's really between right now. The Jaguars and the Titans, until proven otherwise, I'm considering total non-factors. The Colts and Texans, both 6-4. Every time you think one of them is about to gain momentum and take control of the division, they let the other one right back in. I mean, the Colts are coming off back-to-back losses here. The Texans have a shot to take a lead in this division heading into their Thursday night matchup this coming week, but choke up against the Ravens and allow the Colts to get back in the mix of things here. So just a weird division there. Bills defeat the Dolphins, a game that was a little bit closer actually than the final results say, because the Dolphins had this within a 16-7 lead in the first half. They decide, you know what, we're not going anywhere. Let's go for an onside kick after the Billage touchdown and recover that. But on the first play, Allen Hurns fumbles the ball in the Bills' territory. 6 plays later, the Bills go up by 2 scores. And I know the Dolphins had a 100-yard kickoff return by Grant right after that. But, that fumble after getting the onside kick, pulling the trickery there, seemed to kill a lot of the momentum they were starting to build in that game. And weren't able to stop the Bills. The Bills scored 5 times on their first 7 possessions of the game. 3 touchdowns by Josh Allen. A big day by John Brown as they get themselves or at least keep pace in this AFC wild card here. Hell, they're still only 2 games back in the division from the Patriots, who rebounded from their loss to the Ravens a couple weeks ago with a win against the Eagles. And this was more about the Patriots defense, because after the Dallas Goedert touchdown in the first half that made it 10-0 Eagles, the Eagles offense was a non-factor. They crossed the 50-yard line 1 time in their final 9 possessions. So you got to give the Patriots defense a lot of credit there on a day where Tom Brady wasn't at his greatest. Though I'm a little bit concerned here that Tom might be getting some help very soon, because tomorrow morning, and I know this probably doesn't tell anything, or you're saying, oh, you're just thinking conspiracy here. You're just thinking too negative a thought here. But tomorrow morning, supposedly Rob Gronkowski at 9 a.m. East Coast time is going to be making an announcement on his Instagram account. Would it really surprise me if Gronk is announcing that he's coming back for the stretch run here for the Patriots? I've thought all along that with this retirement that it was only a matter of time until we see Gronkowski again. So, unless he's announced he's going to be the host of some TV show, some other endeavor that he's joining up, I would be fairly surprised if tomorrow morning Gronk's announcement is anything but announcement of coming out of retirement. And if he did, I don't care if he missed the first 10 weeks or not. That gives Brady his second safety valve other than Edelman back, and it makes them the clear front runner in the AFC to get back to the Super Bowl. And then see who would come out of that wild NFC. Well, right now you look at it, you said there's about 7 teams that could come out of the NFC. Obviously the 49ers, who had to overcome a couple of interceptions in the second half by Garoppolo yesterday, but were able to outlast the Cardinals. The Cardinals, who have, even for their 3-7-1 record, have played better than the record says they are. They're seemingly in every game. You got the Saints, who rebound from last week's surprising loss to the Falcons. Were aided there by the fact that Jameis Winston threw 4 interceptions. 3 of which gave the Saints great scoring opportunities and killed any momentum the Bucs were trying to build there. Especially the third one, he throws to Marcus Williams. They're down by 10 with 5 minutes to go on their own 33-yard line, or on the Saints 33. And Marcus Williams picks it off and runs back to the end zone to essentially lock up that game. You got the Vikings, who, even when they were down 20-0, I still thought there was no way they were going to lose at home to the Broncos. And credit Kirk Cousins for leading the comeback there, because in his career, when down by multiple scores at home as a Vikings quarterback, he was 0-9-1, I think the record was, and just caught fire in that second half. Denver missed a great opportunity right before halftime, because after a long field goal by Brandon McManus, they kicked the ball off back to the Vikings. Amir Abdullah fumbles the kickoff and gives the Broncos the ball at the 17-yard line. But on the first play, Brandon Allen throws an interception to Sendejo and killed the shot that they had to go up by 4 touchdowns right before halftime. So, you look at the NFC right now, there are legitimately about 7 teams that you could say are, Super Bowl contenders. You got the Saints, who probably have the South on complete lockdown. In the North, you've got the Vikings and the Packers, who still play one more time. The Packers were on a bye this week. In the West, you've got the 49ers and the Seahawks. And with the Seahawks were on a bye this week after last week's Monday Night Football win. And then in the East, you've got the Cowboys and the Eagles. I'm not ready to include the Rams in the mix there. There's still only 6-4, and I got to see more from them than a defensive win over the Bears in a game where Mitch Trubisky got benched on the final drive of the game, because let's face it, Goff wasn't much to write home about last night either. He just sucked less than Trubisky did as the game went on. So right there are your 7 contenders for the NFC side of the Super Bowl mix. AFC, I think it's just two teams, and it's the Ravens and the Patriots, and it doesn't matter to me where the game is at. Bill Belichick has seen Lamar Jackson once now. He's going to have a different game plan for him if they meet up again in the AFC Championship game. So whether it's in Baltimore or if it's in Foxborough, I need to see it to believe it, that Lamar Jackson, seeing the Patriots a second time in 1 year, can beat them before I believe they can knock off the Patriots and get to the Super Bowl. I mean, they're having a fantastic season. He's having an MVP caliber year, but it's still the Patriots. Until you knock them off, unfortunately, it's their world and we're still all living in it. I'm going to take one last break here, come back on the other side, and finally recap the Jets from yesterday and the many reasons why I was happy about yesterday's victory. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
We are from New York. We back to smack talk. You do it your way. We reppin' Broadway. This is our home team.
It brings a smile to my face hearing this music on a Monday after the Jets win back-to-back games for the first time since October of last year. And that's how bad it's been for the Jets. The fact they have not won back-to-back games since October of 2018. And that's just what they did yesterday, going to Landover, Maryland, and taking care of business against the Washington Redskins. And this felt like, the typical, Jets trap game. And when I say trap game, I mean, they have a exciting win the week before, beating their in-stadium rival, the New York Giants, coming off such a high, and then they go on the road and face a team that's worse than they are, although, let's face it, as a Jet fan, we have no right now to look down our nose at really anybody. And, lay an egg, lay a dud against that team. But, yesterday showed, as much as I've been pissed off about the way this season has gone, been angry about the way the Jets season's gone, been annoyed with the fact they get off to an 0-4 start. They win the first game, Darnold comes back in, then get embarrassed on Monday Night Football, lose back-to-back games in Florida, including losing to a winless Dolphin team. Yesterday showed that as angry as I have been about things that Adam Gase has done and the way this team has played, it can always be worse. And yesterday you saw that with the Washington Redskins. That is a horrendous football team. I mean, you look at them and you wonder, you got Dwayne Haskins there. You've got a couple of young pieces there, such as the young running back Geis, who could finally stay healthy enough to be on the field for them. But there's and a couple good young wide receivers, but there's not much to write home about with this team. A defense that the Jets were able to shred yesterday. You look at, just all the way around. They fired their head coach earlier this year. They have an even worse owner than the Jets do. I mean, Christopher Johnson may have made the dumb remarks, I thought, at least in my mind, last week, of saying Gase is safe for the year and safe for next season. I mean, take that with a grain of salt. He might wake up on Christmas Day and have another feeling about it, depending on how the Jets finish this year. But you can always have worse with the embarrassment that their organizations had with Daniel Snyder and how they handled the Trent Williams situation. The way they fired Jay Gruden. And the fact that they have a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins that just doesn't look ready to play, looks lost there in the pocket, and had Jamal Adams up in his grill all day long. And that's what brings a smile to your face as a Jet fan. The way Jamal Adams has played the last 2 weeks. I mean, I got on him a little bit for the comments he made after he thankfully wasn't traded, when he talked about, you don't offer up Tom Brady in trades, you don't offer up Aaron Donald in trades, something along those lines. And I said to myself, all right, Jamal, calm the hell down there. But the last 2 weeks, he's shown that he is one of, if not the best safeties in the league, and shown why this is a guy that sooner rather than later the Jets got to pay so that they keep around their franchise for the long term. I was also happy, this offense, once again, fourth straight game, they come down and score a touchdown on their first drive of the game. And just the way that this offense flowed yesterday, finally Darnold able to get some protection. And it goes back to the return of Beachum last week at left tackle. Is he a Pro Bowler? No. Is he a guy that is going to make all pro as a left tackle? No. But he's a professional left tackle on like Edagwe, or whatever, however his name is pronounced, the rookie that they Chuma Udaga, whoever they've been playing there at left tackle. At least you have a guy there that is serviceable, usable at the left tackle position. And, that left side of the line, they cleared up a lot of holes yesterday for Blau Powell. Hell, you even saw Ty Montgomery get in the mix a little bit there. What a surprise there. So, there was a lot of good that came from yesterday's win. Of course, you had, Ficken miss an extra point, miss a 49-yard field goal, which you got a feeling he was going to miss before he even kicked it. The fumble by Vincent Smith, which thankfully didn't turn into any points by the Redskins, because they then missed a 29-yard field goal. And Sam threw what was another atrocious interception there. But the Jets defense was on lockdown mode until, the later stages of the fourth quarter, when they gave up a couple of garbage time touchdowns. They, were really good yesterday. You got, I mentioned Jamal. The corners played well. I don't know where the hell this guy, Bless Austin, who they're playing at corner now, came from. An undrafted rookie out of Rutgers. Never heard of this guy before last week, but he's shown that he might be a player there. So, overall, I'm happy about the Jets' win. I'm glad they took care of business. Now, I understand these last 2 weeks have been against a Giants team that has lost now 6 games in a row, who was on their bye this week, and a Redskins team that is 1-8 on the season. now 1-9. Their only win coming against the Dolphins, and they were a failed Dolphins 2-point conversion away from losing that game in their own right. But I'll take the wins any way I can get them. I'll take it beats losing and being miserable on a Sunday afternoon. And this is a theory I've developed here. There's a lot of Jet fans who right now want to be in tank mode. I'm sure if I asked a couple of my buddies that I go tailgating with for the home games, they would say, I'd rather see the Jets lose so that they can get a higher draft pick. And with the number of teams that are taking quarterbacks in this year's draft, maybe they can get Chase Young out of Ohio State, who will be returning against Penn State this coming Saturday. I'm sure that's the reaction I would get there. But no, I'm in the mindset of I want to see the Jets win games. Not because I think they're going to win out and reach the AFC postseason as a 9-7 wild card team. And right now, if you look at the standings as I on the run try and get them up here, right now they got a bunch of teams that they would still have to jump over to get back in the mix. It would take them winning out and getting to 9-7, and I don't expect that. They got a Thursday night game against the Ravens coming up in week 15. They got a game at home this Sunday against the Raiders, who have been rolling in recent weeks, won 4 straight games. They got a home game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, even though I think they're a bit on the downslide after last Thursday's performance, especially if Mason Rudolph's still their quarterback, that will be a tough game because half of MetLife will be Steeler fans. I want to see this team win games because I feel it's good for the psyche of Sam Darnold. Good for the thought of he's not just playing well, but the team continues to lose games. Kind of like, and I hate to throw this guy under the bus because he's dealing with an injury right now and is probably done for the season, but kind of like what Matthew Stafford's career has been. I mean, you think about his time with the Lions, it's been mostly losing games, where he throws for 350 plus, a lot of that to Megatron when he was still playing. But the Lions were finding new and interesting ways to lose. I want Sam Darnold to develop winning as a habit here. Winning, just like winning is a habit, losing is a habit. And you don't want him to continue going through that habitual cycle of the Jets losing games, going through 4-12, 5-11 type seasons, waiting for that offensive line to get put together. And then when it's put together, he doesn't know how to win. He doesn't know how to close out games. He doesn't know that feeling of walking away on a Sunday and saying, and you know what, I wasn't my best throughout the game, but I still got us over the finish line and won. Or, hey, I played great and we won this game. It was a total team victory. That's the mindset I want him developing. That's the kind of moxie, the bravado I want going with Sam Darnold right now. And plus, people saying, tank for the draft picks. What exactly in recent years has that done for the Jets? I mean, they've had a habit in recent years when you want them to tank of winning those games, those meaningless games in December, and they were still able to trade up for Sam Darnold. They fell to 6 a couple years ago, and were still able to get Jamal Adams. The years where you thought, it's a good idea to tank, and maybe they'll get the best player. Well, look what happened there. They have Leonard Williams fall to them, and he was a bust. Then last year, they're drafting 3rd overall, and they still don't even pick the best player in the draft. I mean, unless Quentin Williams all of a sudden wakes up one day and turns into Aaron Donald or Khalil Mack, you're going to be looking at that draft forever thinking, look at Quentin Williams and watch Josh Allen go out there and have 15 sacks a season and be a defensive player of the year candidate. So it's not always about where you draft, it's about who you draft. And that's, after the season, this is when Joe Douglas starts to build his reputation as the Jets general manager. Find the players. Don't just rely on where you're picking, because that hasn't always done the Jets well over the years. That hasn't always gotten them the good hand. That doesn't, just because they've drafted high doesn't mean they've always gotten the best player. Hell, more times than not, they've gotten a worse player than they could have gotten. They'll get what they thought was the best player at that spot, and then 5-6 picks down the line, an even better player turns out, and they're left sitting there thinking, what could have been? So let's have Darnold go out there, play well, and develop a winning mindset. Start breeding a winning culture here. I know it's not going to matter much into the final standings. As I said, they're not going to win out the rest of the remaining schedule, go 9-7 and make the playoffs as a wild card. But it will do him good in the future if he they go down the stretch here in now these final 6 games and go 4-2, get to 7-9. That's an increase from last year going 4-12, and continue to make that incremental jump. Continue to get him in that winning mindset. So then once he does finally have the offensive line in front of him, which hopefully, over this course of this coming off season, they're able to build a more sturdy offensive line in front of him, so he's not running for his life and throwing up prayers each and every single time. He has that memory in the back of his mind of, oh, I've been here before. I know how to close this game. I know how to win this. So, while others may be other Jet fans, so-called Jet fans, may be upset about winning yesterday, I'm happy as can be. I'll take it where I can get in what has been a miserable season. And even with yesterday's win, as happy as I am, it makes me think about what could have been. I mean, you think about it. If they could have closed out the game against the Bills and then won one of the games in Florida against either the Jaguars or the Dolphins, we'd be talking about the Jets as in the mix at 5-5, in the mix for a potential wild card right now. But instead, it's always with the Jets. It's a what-if situation. So hopefully, they can make this some fun going down the stretch here, make it enjoyable going to MetLife Stadium, the final 3 home games of this season. As I have said before, my goal for this year was never about the postseason. It was about the growth of Darnold and being a team that down the stretch, everyone would look at and say, oh, they're getting better each week. That's not, just an easy win anymore. We can't just look at the Jets and say they're a walking punching bag that we're just going to roll over them easy. Even if they lose Sunday to the Raiders, at least give me something. At least be a competitive loss there. At least show me the quarterback continues to get better, and show me signs along this team, whether it be the offensive line protecting him, letting him go through his progressions, whether it be you continue to see growth out of a young player like a Bless Austin, who, as I said, just came out of nowhere, didn't even know he was in the organization, and at least make it so that I turn on the games each week and say, oh, they at least have a shot at winning this game, and at least this game for 60 minutes will be entertaining, unlike some of the crap that I watched earlier this year. And that, my friends, was Keeping It Sports with M3 for Monday, November 18th, 2019. Everyone have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys again same time next week. Peace.
have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you!
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.